The purpose of this tutorial is to show how to solve a quadratic equation from if you have a parabola in vertex form, or if the equation itself is just in a perfect square form. So it'll be a very similar idea. So we're going to start with this parabola in vertex form, y equals 2x minus 4 squared plus 5. And what we're asked to find here are the points that have a y coordinate of 7. So we're trying to find the x value, the x coordinate. So let's start with the equation here, and since the y coordinate of these points is 7, then we would substitute 7 in place of y. So this is the equation that we're now solving. Okay, now that we put the 7, that y coordinate of 7 in place of y. Now the first thing you want to do, we want to isolate for x, but the first thing you want to do is get the expression that has x by itself. Okay, so initially we want to isolate the 2x minus 4 squared term. In other words, we want to get rid of the 5. So what we would do to start getting rid of the 5 is I would subtract 5 from both sides, like this. And of course, that adds to 0. So we now have 7 minus 5 on the left, and then just a 2x minus 4 squared on the right. And of course, we would next simplify this. 7 minus 5 is 2, so that's now 2, and then we have this 2x minus 4 squared. Now, again, it's kind of like we're working from the inside out. Okay, so we isolated for this, the 2x minus 4 squared, so I want to work my way inside, so eventually I have x by itself. That's the idea. So the next thing I want to do, and it's kind of like the reverse of bed mass. Remember, bed mass looks like this. Let me write bed mass up here. So you see what we did first is we get rid of this plus 5. Okay, so that's like the addition subtraction. The next thing we're going to do is, in order to get rid of this 2 here, so we have just the x minus 4 squared alone, is we would divide that 2 out of both sides. So see, that's now the division and multiplication. So it's kind of like we're working in reverse order to bed mass when you're solving. So we'll divide out the 2. And of course, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and these 2's divide out to 1 as well. So next we would just have 1 here, and then x minus 4 squared. Now, so we've done all the addition, subtraction, the division, multiplication. So now exponents is next. See, I want to isolate for x, so we need to get rid of this square. So that's my exponent. So we would take, and the opposite of squaring is to take the square root. So we take the root of both sides in order to get rid of that square. So now there's 2 roots here. That's what the plus or minus 1 means. On the right side, the square and the square root cancel one another out. They're opposite operations. So that just simplifies the x minus 4. But there's 2 square roots of 1. 1 and negative 1. Remember, a square root is a number that if you square it, you get that value. See, if I square positive 1, I would get 1, so that means 1 is the square root of 1. But if I square negative 1, I also get that 1. Your calculator might not tell you that, it'll just tell you the 1, but there are 2 roots of any positive number, a positive 1 and a negative 1. So that's why we have the plus or minus here, and if you've learned anything about the quadratic formula, that's why there's a plus or minus in the middle of the quadratic formula. If you haven't learned it yet, if you're doing this kind of thing, you're probably going to get to it pretty soon. So now we want to isolate the x, so I would get rid of that minus 4. So we'll add 4 to both sides. So this is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go plus 4 here. And I don't have to write a plus 4 here because 4 plus minus. So that adds to 0, so now we just have x on the right and 4 plus or minus 1 on the left. So again, the plus or minus means there's 2 roots. So I'm going to just rewrite this with the x on the left, the 4 plus or minus 1 on the right. And so the 2 roots come from doing 4 plus 1 and then 4 minus 1. That gives us the 2 roots. And 4 plus 1 is 5, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So those are the x coordinates for this, the points that have a y coordinate of 7. So the points would look like this. It would be 5, 7, and 3, 7 would be the 2 points. And I have a Desmos graph here I'm going to bring up. Just let me bring this over here. So what I did was I graphed this parabola y equals 2x minus 4 squared plus 5. And the simplest way, okay, so I can try to trace here. I'm looking for 0.7 x coordinate of 7. See, I'm pretty close there. It's hard to get right on. It's 6.8. It's very difficult to get right on there. There we go. There's 3.7. A simple way to do it, though, is to graph the line y equals 7 here. Okay, so that's 1.37, and there's the other one. Remember, the x coordinates were 3 and 5. So those are the 2 points on the parabola, this parabola here, that have a y coordinate of 7. They're 3, 7, and 5, 7. And so that's a little tutorial on how you solve when it's in a perfect square form. So basically, you're kind of undoing the square to isolate for x. That's the idea. And that's the end of the tutorial.